So we just finished dwarf. Uh, Elves, man, they're elves. They have pointy ears and no makeup, which is also awesome when it comes to costuming. Again, just like dwarves, they are a very common uh, fleshed out race when it comes to high fantasy. They have a lot of lore in terms of the history of the Aldratha, and they played a lot of critical roles in developing the history. There's a lot of history with elves. They're very fleshed out. Um, there are whole nations of elves. I know that for sure. There are whole nations of elves that represent political, in terms of in-game, there are nations of elves that represent political powers, and they have a lot of political power within the world of Aldratha in terms of playing politics and stuff. If you wanted to play politics, Elf's a good point. Elf's a good pick. Like if you want to be like, well, what's our relationship with this town, and I want to improve relationships with X, country. Um, Elves are the way to go, man. Elves are cool. They're very common. You understand if you've 100% you've encountered elves in some kind of other form of storytelling, and they're essentially the same here. They don't they have a unique culture specifically because of their history in Shiftedlands, so obviously they're not the same as like Tolkien elves, but they're good at archery. You know, they the picture is holding a bow, so bonus first skill, bonus archery, reduced casting. They're a casting race. They're pretty cool, and just like dark elves, they're looking at resist sleeps and resist charm, which I'm not going to cover that too much because we covered that with dark elves. Speak with mammals. We covered that earlier with Beastman. Again, it's really cool when you have the skill and it comes up. Bonus sword. Now, we're seeing the first psionic skill, psionic shield. Being able to racially defend against psionics is pretty useful. Let's see, this defense is used on the fly, blah, blah, blah. Oh, or a nearby victim. Yeah, so you not only do you get to defend yourself, but you can defend other people with this skill. And that's really cool because that's very unique too. There's not a whole lot of I defend other people with skills type of skills. Uh, 5 points of psionic endurance, pretty good. Five is a pretty good ratio when you're talking about psionic defenses. And like actually that's really good, like super good. Uh, Psionic Shield. This is going to pop up on a couple other races, mainly Folk, and we'll get into Folk. And then this is the first Elder, I think, that we're running into so far that has a pathway kind of Elder, so that you can go wood elf elder, and then there's like high elf. Yeah, there's like high elf elder and wood elf elder. So if you see these generic elders that don't have like high elf or wood elf on them, that means all elves get them. Uh, and then there's specifically a pathway between all of the. So like I want to be a wild elf versus I want to be a wood elf versus I want to be a high elf. And you get a pick when you become an elder elf, if you become an elder elf, because there's reasons to not. There are definitely reasons to not become an elder of your race, and that's very important when you're deciding like how to advance your character. But if you decide to become an elder elf, this is a pathway type of thing. So there might be. I don't know of many elder elves in town. I think I've met one, and they're in game. I'm gonna be honest. In game, I've met a lot of elves that are jerks in game. They're kind of snobby and mean. And when you look at the history, I'm pretty sure it talks about that. The elves seem a bit too snobbish and self-centered, and often cause minor wars and local skirmishes. Uh, they they like to, and it's fun. It's fun to roll. There's a space for it. It's fun to role play being mean to people and being like up in airs and being fancy. And I've met a lot of elves that do that, and they dive into that. And as soon as you get out of game and you talk to them, they're super great people. Um, but elves are fun, and they're not really running out of generic elf lore. You have lots of gas in the tank to be doing cool roleplay with elves stuff. So yeah, that's elves. They're good at throwing archery. They're good at casting spells, and they do all of the generic elfy things that you think, and they have a cool elder path. They have cool elders. That's been Elf.